Hey there folks, this is Scott once again and welcome to another video. This time, however, this is going to be a completely different video. I was originally going to record a review for the film that I saw today, but you know what? Since today is a very, historic and unforgettable day, almost 18 years ago, I figured I'd give my kind of like reflections and talk about whatever happened, on 9/11. A day that will always be remembered as a rather just an unimaginable horror-filled of a day, but afterwards it became something to remember, and the firefighters that that did their best to rescue whatever people were still alive. Um, it's a very unimaginable horror of a day for those who lived it and those who tragically died that day. And I don't really know what the words I can use to describe this. But like I said, there was just horrors beyond that were like unimaginable for some. And I was young myself. I was still in school. I actually remember the day this happened. Apparently, I didn't know about till like I guess what 8 or 9 in the morning, and we were in one of my. I think we were in my. I'm trying to remember what class we were in, but we were in class, and we watched the news of what happened that day, and it was a big shock to us all. The fact that terrorists from Al-qaeda went to great lengths to do this to us, to possibly humiliate us and try to, I don't know, just commit a vicious act of terrorism to that degree. It was just beyond shocking. And we saw the images of the planes just crashing down into those two towers, the north and south. Let me go look at the information, that way I can get this stuff down. And yeah, American Airlines Flight 11 and United Airlines Flight 175 both crashed into those towers. And of course, we all know of the two other planes. One that actually crashed into the Pentagon, which was, I believe, the Airlines Flight 77. It crashed into the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense. And then there was a fourth one that was actually heading towards Washington, D.C., but somehow the passengers managed to thwart the hijackers and diverted away, and they crashed into a field of Stony Creek Township near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. So yeah, and not only that, you lost a great amount of lives. I believe almost 3,000 people died on this tragedy, and it caused about $10 billion in infrastructure and property damage. And even though if there were some people that did, were rescued and were taken out of the whole wreckage and all the debris fields and stuff like that, some actually died of related cancer and respiratory diseases because of the smoke. Because once your lungs fill up with smoke, you're pretty much dead. And last week, I learned that a good friend of mine, or I wouldn't say good friend, but somebody I actually once knew and I hadn't seen in quite some time. His first name's Neil, but I don't quite remember his. Well, I kind of remember his last name, but I don't want to give it away. But there was a tragic accident out on a boat somewhere in California, where I think mainly one of the captains or someone, I forget who got. Very few people lived, and but the rest of the people, like around 30 or so people, died. And unfortunately, the person I knew was on that boat. But apparently, they were already dead, because apparently the smoke must have gone inside their lungs and killed them. So yeah, it was a tragedy. And then only that, the people that, the firefighters that rescued them, a lot of them died. Apparently, somewhere between 343 and 72 were killed, respectively. And, it was the single deadliest terrorist attack in human history. It was the deadliest incident for firefighters, for the firefighters that were trying to rescue all these people. Women, children, probably men too. Everyone that was trapped within the infrastructure of that building. a lot of lives were lost, and it's just unbelievable how an event like that can really affect us all. But it did, like I said before, firefighters were fighting to save lives, even if it meant it was going to cost their own. It was not only a day of horror, but also I like to believe that it became a day of determination and the drive to, you know, to be being a proud American and embracing, those challenges and trying to show that you have compassion and determining to rescue people, not just firefighters, but you also want to. I sound like I'm all over the place on this, but I believe, I like to believe that there wasn't just firefighters that were helping out that day. Sure, they did their jobs, they did the duties, they did the most selfless acts that you can think of. But I like to believe, there are people that people must have helped out too, because that was a day that after all this, we were going to be united. We were not going to take this. Eventually, we would declare war on terrorism and war on Al-qaeda, and we fought back. It was something that that was not going to be that wasn't going to be just a, a forgetful terrorist act. It was going to be something that was going to be remembered, and we were going to carry that, and we were going to do our best to defend freedoms of anybody in this country. We were going to really fight to keep the war on terrorism out of this country, to make sure that all our freedoms and rights and liberties were going to be fought for and defended for no matter what. And you have to be aware that regardless of any race, religion, no matter what they are, no matter what religion or, like I said, race, people can do the most incredulous, unbelievable stuff towards people, whether it's good or bad. And but you also should take time out of this day to also remember that think of all the people that that not only that were fighting to save the victims, but also in order to prevent themselves from being killed in those buildings, some people jumped out. It's unbelievable. But you just gotta remember that you gotta take the time to remember if you lost any loved ones, take the time out of this day to remember who they are and what they stood for. I guess is what you can say. Whether you knew somebody or not, or if a friend of your friend actually lost somebody on those towers, it's something that you would also want to hold dear, and also remember those people that, I don't know how to say this, but that also you want to take a time out of the day to never forget who they are. You always want to remember for who they are and what they stood for. And you can never forget them. I'm not saying I knew anybody that lived in the two towers or was on that flight that crashed into the Pentagon, and the one that crashed outside of Pennsylvania. But I know that, believe it or not, I did read something about Seth MacFarlane being scheduled on one of those flights, and apparently his agent had screwed up, and he ended up getting delayed, and it was probably a good thing, because he might have been on one of those flights, and he might have been killed. I remember reading something about that, and that's unbelievable. How just certain circumstances can either delay the inevitable or can actually put you in that position. Because I can't imagine what those people went through. The people that jumped out of the towers to avoid, whatever structures were falling apart in those two towers, because they would eventually collapse, or the people that were trying to thwart the hijackers to prevent them from crashing into the nation's capital. for those people who weren't firefighters and those who thwarted the terrorists, y'all have my standing salute and ovation for that. And the people that fight for this country and our rights and our liberties, I thank you for your service, no matter where you are or what you've done. You know, you definitely will never be forgotten. And I don't know if I can add any more to this, but just take the time out of your day, spend whatever hour or so you have left, whatever minute, and embrace that. You know, always never forget. You know, whoever was involved with during 9/11, the firefighters, the victims, whoever, those who were going to save and do their best to rescue and fight for the victims' lives and show the warmth and comfort towards people that they don't know. You have my standing ovation for that. And I thought this was, you know, appropriate to give my respect to all the veterans who served in our nation, in our military, whether the branches of Army, Marines, Navy, and Air Force, or Armed Forces, whoever. You know, keep at it, you know, if you're still serving. Don't ever lose whatever soul or intuition you have. Keep fighting for it. If you're stubborn, you're stubborn. Fight for your survival and for others' survival if you must. So, there you go. After this video, I'll probably do a review of Crawl, and eventually, whenever I get to it, I'll definitely do my reviews of the airplane films. And there might be a few other films I might have lined up, but I wanted to give this standing ovation and reflection, the brief reflection that I had. I remember this happened in 11th grade, pretty much. That's what I can give. And the fact that, you know, it was a very unexpected experience that I've ever seen, and it was just unbelievable. But there was also a day that we banded together, we united as a country, and we became stronger as a nation. I'd like to believe, you know, or at least for some people, we became unique. Just like the Phantom Menace became stronger, despite what Disney and Lucasfilm has done to the Star Wars films. We've become stronger in a sense, resilient. You know, we're not going to take this shit from Disney or Lucasfilm or Kathleen Kennedy or Ruin Jerkoff, who likes to put us down and say that we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. No, we're here to stay. We're here to stay to the very end. You know, surviving and fighting for what's right. You know, not just for franchise, but for people's lives and just for humanity in general. So there you go. We're here to stay. We're here to stay to the very end, and you can bet on that. Alrighty, I'm going to end this video. I'll see you in another one, folks. Later.